About a month ago, I made a video explaining what I wanted out of Tears of the Kingdom. And now that the game is out, I can finally talk about what things I got right and also what things I got wrong. If you haven't seen the original videos, there will be links in the description down below. Also, before we start, a word from my cousin.
Link in the coolest.
Woo! Now, without further ado, let's see what I got right. I start off my video by explaining how dark the game seemed. I compared it to games like Twilight Princess and Majora's Mask. And even now, certain elements of the game, I could still compare it to those past games. But back when I made that video, there was some worry that stemmed from that idea. I was nervous that the developers wouldn't be able to quite balance the light and darkness of the story. But now, I think I can proudly say that the game is very well balanced. There's a bright overworld and a dark underworld. There are some story elements that are dark as well. And overall, I had no moments where I was like, oh, that came out of nowhere. So overall, I'm happy with that. My next wish also had to deal with the story. The infamous Zonai tribe. It's kind of crazy to me that for the past 6 years since Breath of the Wild released, the Zonai tribe was a complete mystery. But content creators and theorists alike were obsessed with the small details that we got in Breath of the Wild about the Zonai. And now with Tears of the Kingdom as the new installment to the franchise, we know tons about the Zonai now. In fact, they're one of the main plot points of the story. Take Rauru, for example, one of my new favorite characters of the whole franchise. We now know, because of him, that the first king of Hyrule ever was a Zonai. What was once just small details that you could find in the Faron region are now spread all across Hyrule in the lore. It's insane. If you told the younger me from 4 years ago that we would find out so much about the Zonai tribe in the sequel, she would be going crazy. And I even now continue to go crazy as I explore Hyrule in this new game. My next topic is probably the thing that I was most passionate about at the time. The poor and unfortunate champions. I have quite a bit to say about this general topic. One thing overall is a complaint, but it's also kind of an acceptance. In Tears of the Kingdom, there is a lot of continuity problems when it comes to Breath of the Wild. And I get the need to do that because the new players coming in who didn't play Breath of the Wild will understand, but it's kind of frustrating. Like, you'll interact with an NPC that you know you interacted with in Breath of the Wild, and they'll be like, oh, who are you? Like, I saved your butt from a bokoblin camp. I don't want to hear it. And this whole continuity problem can also bring up the lack of Sheikah technology. Like, where did the huge divine beasts go? Where are the Sheikah towers? You can have your theories, and personally, I have mine, but there should at least be an in-game explanation. When I first got into the world and didn't see the divine beasts anywhere, or at least mentions of them, I was kind of confused. Especially because of how big of a deal they were in the last game. Which, sorry for the side rant, but that finally brings me to the topic at hand, the champions. Originally, I was begging and begging that there would be mentions of the champions in Tears of the Kingdom. And I was right when it came to the fact that there's more focus on the descendants than the actual champions. And shockingly, I'm okay with that. If you think about it, it's been at least 100 years since the champions passed away. So obviously, there would be some moving on when it came to those characters. But just like the divine beasts, even though they're not important anymore, they should still be mentioned, right? The most I could really find on the champions is Mipha's court, which you first find Sidon in, and the statue of Mipha that was originally in Zora's domain is up on Polymus Mountain. And I know, I complained about the descendants at first, but I've really grown to like them. Especially Tulin, oh my gosh, I love him. He's just really cute. I love flying with him, it's so much fun. But yeah, that's my stance on the champions. I'm perfectly fine that they're not directly stated in the game or the main story, but what I would have preferred if they were at least mentioned once, twice, maybe. But that means I can finally move on to my next topic. And that topic happened to be dungeons. The return of traditional dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom was kind of like my holy grail. Good and complicated puzzles, nice big boss fights, and some of them are actually throwbacks to past installments in the franchise. Also, I don't care what that is called. In my head, that is a redead. It'll always be a redead. It is a redead. So I'm just really content with what the game gave us in terms of dungeons. The Divine Beasts were really the only dungeons, and also the shrines if you can count those. But the return of dungeons that you can just find out in the wild, it's so good. Do they make me frustrated? Yes. Do I spend probably 30 minutes per puzzle? Yeah, but it's the thought that counts. Because once you finish that dungeon, it's like a breath of fresh air, and you feel so successful. So I guess you could say, in Breath of the Wild, I didn't exactly miss the dungeons, but the feeling of I succeeded when you complete one. The next thing that I talked about in my past video is something that I can't really talk about now. If you didn't know, it's the difficulty of the final boss. And with complete honesty, I haven't even reached the final boss yet, so I cannot give you an honest rating of how difficult the final boss is. But let's just say when I do, there will definitely be a video coming out about it. Also, please don't spoil in the comments, that's not cool. But on the topic of Ganondorf, I can say that's not Demise, guys. As much as I wish it was and how cool it would have been, that is not the Demon King that we know and love. But who knows, maybe that's not a problem at all. Okay, finally we can reach our conclusion. At the very end of my video, I talked about how I wanted Zelda to be more of a main focus point in the game. And she is. So I have no complaints when it comes to that. Just the overall story with her and the Master Sword, it's so, it's so good. And I guess you could say, yeah, the Dragon Tears parts of the story, which I also made a video on, is optional, but you kind of need it if you want to know the backstory, so. I said in that past video that all I wanted is that the story to be about the hero and the princess. And not only was it about the hero and the princess, but of the Demon King too. The whole Triforce is here, so what can I complain about? Really? Not that much. So with that, I can bring this video to a close. Do you have anything that you wish to see in Tears of the Kingdom? Go ahead and tell me in the comment section down below. As always, I hope you are doing well. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.